Hi, everyone. Hi again. Alrighties, this is your pre-recorded lecture for Branstetter Chapter 4. And my cats are now asleep, so there will be no galloping around the house right now. Thank goodness. Without further ado, let's dive right on into Branstetter Chapter 4. Oops, let's see. Let's go to the PowerPoint. Here we are. Okay, folks. So, Branstetter Chapter 4 is related to intervention and prevention. And what you all may notice about Branstetter's book is that it's very applied practice. So, there's going to be tips and considerations for you, especially as you enter fieldwork or once you become a practitioner. So, real quick about how our roles have shifted and evolved over the years. Way back when our field initially came into conception, we were really known as gatekeepers. But now, however, we've become much more like consultants or collaborators. In that gatekeeper role, we were the ones that either allowed children to receive special education or barred them from receiving special education. Um, that's why we were called that gatekeeper. We're now moving forward with the response to intervention model, also known as, folks, MTSS, or multi-tiered systems of support model or system. And this is where our role is to not only assess, but it's to consult and intervene. We use evidence-based, data-driven, problem-solving team collaboration. And this is where our roles extend beyond special education, where we're supporting students with visible and invisible disabilities. Let's go ahead and check out this video.
Hello. Hey, we've got School Psychologist Week about to come up, and so we're out here at Diamond Ridge Elementary, and I'm going to chat in a few minutes with Stephen Prasad, who's one of our great school psychologists. School psychologists play a really important role. They fill an important niche in working with our kids and our staff, frankly, but also with families and beyond. And we don't have a lot of them, but boy, they are valuable and they're an important part of the team. Why did you decide, is this like a branch of psychology, or why did you decide school psychology?
Yeah, it goes through the Graduate School of Education, so it's educational psychology, which our degree is in. In my day, I have planned things to do, but that always gets thrown out the window.
So like everybody else in education?
Yes, everyone else, that's right. I am required to do special education testing, and so that's my main priority, is to make sure that I can do cognitive testing, behavioral testing, all those kinds of things. But then I love Granite School District, because not only are we tied to special education, but we also work with general education population. So I do a lot of counseling, like I said, individual, group counseling, classroom presentations, get to do things like Student of the Month, so running around and seeing kids. So we do a lot of things, just anything in the classroom.
Can you think of a student that you really made a difference with?
Yeah, there's tons.
Pick one.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to think. I just had a little girl who was crying. She was just really embarrassed. Her emotions just got a hold of her, and so she was just really embarrassed in class. And so I just had to talk to her, and that's why I was late coming to see you. But then all of a sudden, she kind of flipped that and was able to turn around a little bit.
We talk a lot about kids having adverse childhood experiences. And what role do you and the school psychologists play in helping kids through trauma experiences that they've had?
Yeah, well, we are lucky because we can work with them individually, but then we also consult with teachers and administrators and the families. So it's really a collaborative process. So not only are we working individually with the student, but we're working with families and teachers how to support them in the classroom and at home.
And I think you've just validated something that I've kind of sensed, and that's that none of us do this stuff alone. It is a team effort. You bring expertise to the table, but you've got teachers who bring a whole nother set of expertise to the table, and administration that brings another set of expertise. And when we all work together, we really can make a difference in kids' lives. Thank you so very, very much.
Isn't that fun? Contemporary school psychology. It kind of shows you a little bit about just how our roles have shifted from that purely gatekeeper role where we just purely did testing versus now we do a lot more counseling, consultations, and working with families, working with outside agencies, etc. So back to that pyramid. Response to intervention, also known as MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support. Again, at that bottom of the pyramid, we've got that universal intervention component, where again, that range about 80% of students. And then we've got our targeted interventions, tier two, our at-risk kiddos. And then tier three, our students who need a little bit more individualized attention and support, just because the interventions provided at tier one and tier two was just not enough for them. This particular model, guys, it focuses a lot on prevention, all right? Making sure issues don't get worse, all right? And we implement, again, evidence-based interventions with students, and these interventions can be social, they can be emotional, behavioral, academic, all righty? So one thing that often comes to mind, or that often is an opportunity to reflect or think about for practitioners, is I've got no time to do interventions. So what do you do when you don't have time to implement interventions? I mean, the honest reality is a lot of our practitioners have a very high workload just because there's a lot of assessments going on for special education eligibility. So there's tips that you can do, all right? You can get involved with your district's intervention teams. It could be the behavior team, the intervention team, leadership teams, care teams, etc. You can do school-wide support teams, and these teams tend to examine a lot of the school practices and policies that impact kiddos' achievements. They can look at discipline practices, they can look at anti-bullying initiatives, they can adopt reading curriculum for students who are struggling with reading, they can be a support team for teachers who are having a hard time with classroom management. Then there's also student focused teams. These teams focus on strategies and practices that impact students. It can be student study teams or SSTs. They're also known as student success teams. This is where they engage in a lot of tasks prior to referring a kiddo to special education related services or assessment for special education related services. These teams enable a disbursement of tasks and responsibilities, which takes some of that pressure and that burden feeling, especially if you have a high workload. It takes some of that away. With our student focused teams, some questions to ask if you end up on some of these teams is, how long has this been an issue for the student? What clues exist in the records about other reasons besides the disability for the students' difficulties? Has there been really inconsistent attendance? Has there been shifts in the family? Has there been regular moves, like the student does not attend one school for at least a year, they've moved 4 times in one academic year? What's going on here? What is the student's history of intervention? Have they ever received any type of intervention? What's the student's special education assessment history? Have they ever been assessed for special education related services? Did they qualify for special education related services? Because maybe perhaps in their history, in their records, it shows that they were assessed, but they did not meet eligibility. With academic interventions, our student-focused support teams are there to brainstorm interventions for students who are struggling academically. And as school psychologists, you are very resourceful individuals. You are aware of school-based interventions by looking some of those databases up, like Intervention Central, like What Works Clearinghouse are some. You can start developing a binder of interventions or even an Excel sheet for those of you who love Excel. You can organize according to the different areas of need. Say you've got a tab for all the reading interventions, all the writing interventions, math interventions, etc. You can bring this binder or resource to meetings regarding students' difficulties. So let's say you have a student study team meeting for a student who's struggling with math. You're going to bring along with you to that meeting some math interventions. Have family-friendly handouts that may describe the area of needs and what families can do at home. You can even show parents, model for them what they can do at home. You can develop a collection of community-based resources for families, either free tutoring, extracurricular activities, etc. You can familiarize yourself with the school's benchmarks and know what's expected of students at each developmental stage or each grade level. In terms of social, emotional, and behavioral interventions, you want to consult your team regarding what's normal developmental challenges. For instance, During adolescence, there's this pursuit of autonomy and independence. Our teens want to be independent. They want to have freedom to make choices, right? And at times that may come off as combative or challenging to authority figures or stubbornness, argumentative, right? So be wary of some of those normative developmental things that are taking place. Your role can be consultant in connecting students, families, and staff to resources. You want to make sure you're prepared with a range of interventions. And again, get familiar with community based mental health providers. Collaborate with them to establish either workshops or trainings for families and staff. You can also create and develop workshops, trainings for families and staff depending on needs. So, with that, folks, that concludes a quick rundown of just things to keep in mind or tips in terms of how to implement interventions, all right, and working alongside the team. So that concludes our session for today. All right, today meaning Wednesday. And I just hope you all enjoy your week and make sure to respond to that Blackboard discussion. Okay, that's due by 11:59 p.m. December 2nd, right before class. Okay, folks, keep that in mind. Right before class, get it in. All right. With that, have a great, wonderful, and safe rest of your week. I'll see you December 2nd. Bye.